I did not really have any kind of role model, especially a male role model. One of my grandfathers passed away before I was born, and the other grandfather was on the other side of the country and had health issues. My own father had alcohol-related issues and was always working when I was young. With all of this going on in my youth, I developed a very unhealthy outlook on life. Since turning 18, I have more or less been on autopilot. Last year, I made the decision that I was done being that way, sought out therapy, and have been in therapy ever since. One thing that would help would be to find someone to look up to. The problem is that I do not know what to look for. Here I am asking for advice from other men. What advice would you give to another man who never had a healthy male role model growing up? Story 1. Look for admirable men in your own life before looking online. Coaches, managers, leaders, articulate men who know how to communicate through issues without losing their temper. These men exist in our communities and are willing to help those who want to try and learn. Story 2. I have gathered insights from men I have known throughout my life. However, I never had a central figure in my life for long. I am doing well now and making progress in a somewhat unique way on my own. Clearing my mind worked well for me rather than using drugs or listening to podcasts. Pay attention to what moves you. It may take some time, but you will find your path. Story 3. Nobody is going to rescue you but yourself. Start with that thought and carry it through to the very end. You are stronger than you think. Have faith and self-belief and carry that through. Story 4.1. No one really knows what they are doing. Anyone who tells you otherwise is lying. Start with kindness, grace, and understanding. Apologize when you are wrong. I am lucky enough to have a fantastic male role model in my father, and his father was great too. That being said, I certainly take some inspiration from well-written male characters. If you are a comic fan, sometimes you have to think, what would Spider-Man do in this situation? Or what would Captain America do here? Sometimes that means you punch a Nazi in the face. Sometimes that means you do the right thing even to your own detriment. Story 5. First and foremost, you are in this alone. You need to take care of yourself. No one is coming to help you. No one is coming to save you. If you need things, you have to get them yourself. If you want things, you have to get them yourself. If you make a mistake, you have to fix it. No one is going to help you. Accept your burden of performance. You have a burden to perform that women do not have. You will be judged not on who you are, but rather on what you do and what you can provide to people. You will be valued for what you do and what others can extract from you, not for who you are. Along these same lines, when it comes to work, you have two choices: work or starve and die. Make a plan for your life. It just has to be something that shows you have given some thought to what you want your life to look like professionally, personally, socially, and sexually. Interpersonal boundaries are extremely important. Set them and enforce them firmly. If someone crosses a boundary once, address it. If they cross it again, remove them from your life. Respect is earned. You are not given respect, you earn it. The more nonsense you tolerate from people, the more they will expect you to tolerate. You decide what amount of nonsense you will accept. Everyone tolerates some nonsense. Women are the icing on the cake. They should never be the focus of your life. Do not take advice from women. Especially do not take advice from women on how to date women. Women are not men. Do not live as men, do not see the world as men, and do not have the same experiences as men. Unless you are extremely physically attractive, you will not be attractive to most women. If you have to ask whether you are extremely physically attractive, you are not. Most women will not be attracted to you. This is normal. Do not spend time trying to get women to like you. Instead, hang back and let women who are interested in you come and show their interest. The moment you start getting disinterest, nonsense, hassle, pushback, or ignoring from a woman, pull back and give her less. Do not give a woman more than you are getting back. Expect a return on investment with a woman. She needs to match you measure for measure. If she does not, she is not interested or she is using you. Pull back. Find men who are doing what you want to do and emulate them. Find men who are living how you want and emulate them. Get in shape. Physical appearance is much more important than most people admit. Take care of your physical health. If you do not have that, you have nothing. Take care of your teeth. Brush them and get them cleaned. If you ignore your teeth, they will go away. Everyone lies. Everyone you know, love, and care about will let you down at one time or another. But those same people will sometimes save you. Question all advice you get, including this advice. If you think it is nonsense, come up with something better that works for you. Story 6. I think Aragorn from The Lord of the Rings is a great male role model. He is a skilled fighter, protects those he loves, is loyal to friends and family, shows empathy, and demonstrates mercy. Story 7. Weak men fall in line, not thinking of the consequences of their actions, such as claiming to be a certain thing, but their so-called principles fall apart as soon as groupthink demands otherwise. Think politics and religion. Think for yourself. Know what is right. Stick to it. Protect people who cannot protect themselves. Understand that, although you may never see it yourself, by self-sacrificing and acting with dignity, you can help change the world. Story 8. That is a very difficult question, but if I were to give some advice, I would suggest starting with daily physical activity. It does not have to be in a gym. It is really important for a young man to support the development of his hormonal system, build his physique, and see a healthy reflection in the mirror. Story 9. The Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. That book helped me a lot. Look for male role models in your workplace and community. Story 10. My advice is to find a code of conduct to follow that challenges you to improve, not accommodate your current self. For some, that is finding faith and adhering to whatever scriptures are taught. For others, it is an occupation where following rules is paramount. For others still, it is a philosophy or lifestyle that leads to self-actualization. Whatever you choose, remember that we all need to improve and no one person or group gets it right 100% of the time. Give yourself grace and forgiveness often, but also a good dose of discipline. Do not use drugs because crack cocaine is harmful. Story 11. 2 things. No one is going to tie your shoes, and no one is going to abide by your rules. This means you are in control of your life and no one else is. Story 12. There are plenty of good role models on YouTube, but they are often hard to find among all the self-help, grifter, scam artist, alpha male content. Many people in the makerspace community seem to have the right attitude toward life. Do your thing, whatever it is, and whatever makes you happy. Don't get distracted by haters and ignore the noise. Also, anyone with a YouTube channel about their real profession, such as lawyers, doctors, or psychotherapists, usually has a sober view of life. Examples that I like to watch are Dad, How Do I? Adam Savage from Tested and Mythbusters fame, Legal Eagle, Dr. Mike, and Renaissance Periodization, also known as Dr. Mike is Retail. Story 13. I would not look for one on the internet. Unfortunately, my father was not the best role model. I have had to look for others in my own life for that guidance. I have taken bits from those people and it really helped. Story 14. Find community and a social network. A role model does not have to be a single person. A role model does not have to be the same gender, age, or ethnicity. Kindness and a willingness to teach are what a role model generally demonstrates. Story 15. Be the man you wish you had as a role model. I grew up most of my life without a father. I had plenty of older male figures try to step in and be that father figure only for them to fail or leave. So I never had anyone to teach me about mechanics, being handy, fixing things, and so on. I had to figure all that out on my own. I never learned much or got far with it, but I know enough to get by. The point is, aspiring to be the man you would have wanted as a role model encourages you to become a better person and, at the same time, provides another positive role model for someone else to look up to. Story 16. Honestly, the best advice I ever got on being a man was from the Red Green Show. If the women do not find you handsome, they should at least find you handy. Be kind to neighbors, help people out. Be a good guy. That is attractive enough in itself both to potential partners and to your community in general. That is being a man. Story 17. Become a good and worthy man. Be kind to others, even if you receive nothing in return. Be honest and fair with yourself and in your dealings with others. While respect is earned, Civility is expected. When in doubt, give others the benefit of the doubt. Do as well as you can. When you know better, do better. Do not be afraid to break with conformity. Speak well of your friends and family even when they are not present. Learn to establish boundaries and limits on what or who you will accept, and stand by them. Be flexible, but some things are never acceptable. Present a good face to the world. Exercise regularly. It is good for your body and your mind. Stay fit. Keep your hair and facial hair clean and well-groomed. Do the same with your nails, hands, and feet. Shower daily and use a pleasant-smelling soap. Pay attention to your shoes. Match your belt color with your shoes. Do not mix metals in buckles, rings, or jewelry. Do not use low-quality aftershave or other scents. Keep your home clean, attractive, and comfortable. Be bigger than your drink. No one truly wins a fight or a lawsuit. Avoid them at all costs. Treat women with kindness. If you are attracted to a woman, show genuine interest in her life and interests. Story 18. My sympathies. Internet stranger. There is probably no single simple or easy way to deal with this. I was lucky because my dad was a pretty solid role model when I was growing up, but he also was not perfect. It was not that he was bad, just that no one is perfect. I would suggest some readings about some of my heroes, but all of them have their flaws and you might not identify with them as I do because of your very different upbringing. Mahatma Gandhi was a hero of mine when I was younger, but there is some racism and sexism away from his public life. He also thought Japan would be better allies for India than Britain's colonialism. Their post-World War I era war crimes and militarism suggest that he did not have the answers either. Personally, I am now 38 and a teacher. I hope I am a good role model to my students, but there are many things about my life that I keep from them, such as my drinking and drug use. There is no simple answer. We are all mostly bags of meat falling around life on this rock, somewhat in the dark and hoping our imposter syndrome does not get too badly exposed. Story 19. Find a sport or physical activity you are really interested in and find a coach and friend group you respect and trust. Story 20. This is a complicated thing to answer. I did not really have a role model either. I grew up in a dysfunctional house, rejected by parents. At a young age, I was quite violent due to these issues. But in my 20s, I saw people around me get incarcerated or even die, which jolted me into the realization to stop or end up like them. This led me to ask questions about myself and how my behavior affected myself and others, especially those in my immediate vicinity. Slowly, I shaped my own moral compass, which was basically, if doing something hurts you and others around you, then do not do it. Find another way to achieve your goals. It was a slower process, but this worked for me. I was basically my own role model. I just made choices that were the least harmful for me and others. That is all. Story 21. Learn to love yourself and your own company. Too many people enter the wrong kind of relationship because they cannot accept being alone and think getting with anyone is the end goal. You should take a relationship as a nice icing on the good cake you already baked before. Develop hobbies and passions. Know what could actually push you to wake up with a smile every day, and forge a personality you would enjoy being with for the rest of your life. The world and its people are not fair. There are many people around you who would not think twice before harming you just so they would not feel a slight breeze. This does not mean you have to be bitter about it or become like them. Be kind, compassionate, yet firm enough to stand your ground when you inevitably meet them. Accept accountability. You will make mistakes and hurt people you care about, sometimes to the point where it will break ties you genuinely value. Accept your own flaws and either work toward improving them or own them. Learn to listen and be patient. You would be surprised how much mastering these two skills can save you. Maintain good personal hygiene. Story 22. I was lucky to have some decent role models. Some podcasts can also help you structure your life. 1. Do the right thing. You know what it is. 2. Don't lie to yourself. You won't like it and you will get no feeling of accomplishment. 3. Smile. Nobody wants to be around someone who is a grump all the time. You will attract the people you want to be around. 4. Try to stay positive or at least neutral. Negativity is a drain on everyone, and you will be avoided. 5. Put your oxygen mask on first. I personally have a tendency to help others to the point I can't help myself, and that can spiral quickly. 6. Seek counsel, not confirmation. With issues, talk to people who know what they are talking about, not your buddy who has similar views as you. You are the one who has to live with the actions and decisions. 7. Last but not least, the golden rule, he with the most gold rules. It's not everything but a tool that is hard to go without. I can't buy happiness, but it is pretty much a guarantee against misery. These are off the top of my head, but a good start. Story 23. You can always find some. Look for people you respect who do not put down others, but instead have respect for people and their competence, and who are kind. Story 24. Be honest with others and yourself. Be a trustworthy person. Honor your word. Pay your debts. Keep your promises. As an adult, you are in the driver's seat now. Take responsibility for the results of your choices. When something does not go your way, resist the impulse to blame someone or something else exclusively. Identify what you could have done differently. Learn the lesson and anticipate scenarios where it can be applied in the future. As children, we often establish different responses to various emotional stimuli, both healthy and unhealthy. As adults, we often fall back on those responses without realizing or thinking about it. Identify those unhealthy or unhelpful automatic responses and create healthier ones. Find meaning in your life. Find time and energy to devote to altruistic pursuits. The grass is greener where you water it. Nurture positive relationships. Nurture yourself with healthy relationships, a healthy diet, exercise, plenty of time outside, intellectual curiosity, and activities that enhance your life in general. Identify something to be grateful for every day, no matter how small. Be someone else's role model. Story 25. I grappled with this too. General Iroh in Avatar, The Last Airbender, was the absolute best male role model I could find. Kind, strong, empathetic, a stoic, a leader, engaged in violence only when it was absolutely necessary. Story 26. Lots of good advice here. I'll also add that the men I learned the most from were the ones who indirectly showed me what not to do. Be observant and learn from others' mistakes. Even the villains in your life have something to teach you. Story 27. Some of the best advice I was given was never to get married. If you love each other enough, you do not need a legal document to hold you together. Story 28. My male role models were my mother, aunt, and grandmother growing up. Become the role model you did not have. I am a firm believer that we all know what is right and wrong. Do the right thing not just for yourself but for others. Live by that simple principle and the rest will fall into place. It really boils down to think before you do or say. Another piece of advice is sometimes you have to do the hard thing. Life is not easy all the time, and sometimes what needs to be done for the betterment of the situation will be hard. Do it anyway. Do what must be done and have good intentions with the solution. One of my favorite phrases is you are not responsible for your emotions, but you are responsible for how you handle them. It is okay to feel whatever you are feeling, but reacting to or handling that is completely in your hands. So if you are angry, you control whether you punch that wall. If you are sad, you decide whether you will stay inactive for 5 days. Finally, we are all responsible for where we are in life. Each decision you have ever made has led you to right here and right now. Do not blame other people. Do not ignore your mistakes and misjudgments. Learn from them so that you can position yourself to accept the randomness of the universe instead of being hurt by it. On that note, I recommend the book The Black Swan by Nassim Nicholas Taleb. It explains the concept of black swan events, which are negative events that we cannot predict yet change the fabric of our lives. The September 11th attacks are an example of that. They completely reshaped the world and invalidated all visions of the future, despite nearly everyone planning for that not happening or not considering it. Story 29. You do not need a role model. Humans learn through multiple pathways, and learning through observation can be achieved by observing multiple people around you, not just one person. You have sufficient cognitive processing to evaluate their behaviors, consider consequences, and decide whether to adopt certain ones or not. Story 30. Read 2 books and 1 poem. Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. The Rise of Theodore Roosevelt by Edmund Morris. If by Rudyard Kipling. Story 31. Terry Crews is the first person who comes to mind when I think of a good male role model. That said, I tend to take good principles and values from different people or what I think is best and aspire to them. You do not necessarily need to emulate someone, but I do think knowing what a good role model looks like is somewhat useful. Story 32. You do not necessarily need them. I assume you were raised to be ethical and moral anyway. Those do not change if you were raised by women. Story 33. Read. Audiobooks are free on the Libby app, and all you need is a free library card. Gain perspectives you would not normally get. Read She Comes First and improve your skills. It will boost your confidence and help you be more willing to take risks and face rejection. Story 34. Anything the mind can conceive and believe, it can and will achieve. Look up Earl Nightingale and study his work. Story 35. Pick positive qualities of the poor role models you have, and even some from fiction, and combine them to create your ideal role model. Even people who have positive role models idealize them, so the role model they have in their mind is fictional too. Just create someone who has all the qualities you want to have and strive to be that person. Also, therapy helps. Treat your therapist like you are consulting a mechanic. My brain keeps making this noise. How do I fix it? Exercise helps, having a routine and good sleep helps. Always try to act in accordance with your values. Never do anything in private that you would be ashamed of if it were made public. If you can manage that, you will be successful. Story 36. I grew up with my mother and my sisters. No father. My siblings and mom would sometimes rant about how horrible men are, but for the most part, they were cool. I sometimes wonder what my life would have been like if I had a positive male role model. I taught myself how to use tools and fix things, but having a father is no guarantee that you will learn these skills from them because not all fathers teach their sons. I would like to be a father, but I am running out of time. I am 39, and these days, dating anyone more than 4 years younger than you is considered inappropriate. So unless I meet someone in the next few years, no kids for me. Story 37. I think my advice may be a little different from many men here. Role models are a double-edged sword because someone you admire in one area can be awful in another. It's easy to make the mistake of thinking that being good in one thing means being good in everything. With that in mind, here is my advice. First, decide what your values are. What kind of man do you want to be? Do you value industriousness, knowledge, faith, kindness, fairness, physical strength, emotional stability, or being handy? If you haven't decided your values, you run the risk of following people who claim to be role models but are just selling something. Once you know your values, seek people, not just men, who are strong in those areas and emulate them. Pay special attention to the effort they put into getting stronger. And don't be afraid to ask for advice. Give yourself grace. Being a good person is a learned skill, and you should expect to let yourself down often, especially in the beginning. But have faith you will improve with effort. It does not matter how long it takes. Just make sure you keep improving. Story 38. Stay in control. You can get as mad as you want if you do not lash out. You can be as scared as you want as long as you do not panic. You can be as amused as you want as long as you do not go overboard. You can be as sad as you want as long as you do not let it control your life. Story 39. I grew up without a father figure too. But one thing I noticed that helped me was reading books. Unfortunately, the average number of books read per year by most people is 1 or none. Books are like your own learning board. Read, and if something resonates, take a pencil and underline the part so you can come back to it and learn again. One book I recommend is Rich Dad, Poor Dad. This will help you understand straightforward truths from a business father's point of view. Story 40. I was in the same situation as you. My dad was an abusive alcoholic and died when I was 14. There is no doubt some detriment to growing up without a father or role model, but it also puts you in a unique position. Most people, for better or worse, get their values from their parents. If you have great parents, that is wonderful. However, I suspect a majority of people fall into the not awful but not great category when it comes to parenting. If you ask most people why they think or behave as they do, it usually comes down to some version of "my parents raised me like that." Good parent scenario. You have a sort of blank slate which can be daunting and feel like you have nothing to build from. But I see it like renovating an old house versus building a new one. If the house was built solid from the beginning, you can do regular maintenance and updates and it will be fine. But you are still stuck with the original floor plans and designs. Some might choose to tear it down and rebuild, but most people are not motivated to do so. No parent scenario. When you build from the ground up, you get to choose the foundation, layout, and floor plan. You can draw from many styles and consult professionals who help create a cohesive plan. It takes longer, but in the end, you have a custom house that you know is solid, and you understand how much maintenance it will require. Not awful / not great parent scenario. You have inherited a house that clearly needs work, but with some renovation, it should be fine. You budget a certain amount for upgrades, but every time you open a wall or inspect the subfloor, there is another repair to make. You have galvanized pipes with a slow leak that has been there for 20 years, causing rotted studs, joists, and rims. The roofers say the chimney flashing is good, but water damage has affected your main support beam. You realize that chimney specialists and roofing specialists are different teams who do not communicate with each other. You have spent all your renovation money on repairs, and now you are living with exposed wiring and insulation until you can afford the next upgrade, hoping nothing else breaks. You know the electric panel will not last much longer. Sure, Scenario 2 sounds harder than Scenario 1. But compared to Scenario 3, where no maintenance was done and the parents were unaware of the damage until you inherited it, building is probably better. You may not know how to build a house, but building is always easier than repairing. You get to choose what kind of person you want to be. You take what you like from the people you meet and leave what you do not. Discernment is the hardest part, but over time it becomes easier to trust yourself and your decisions. My only real advice is that beating yourself up or bullying yourself never made me better or got me where I wanted to be. You do not have to create a harsh image of your father in your head to yell at you. Treat yourself as you would treat an apprentice or student, because you are. This is the first time any of us is doing this, and as long as you are loving and diligent, you will be able to do anything you want in this life. Story 41. Never have sex with a woman unless you are prepared to make and raise a child with her. We all love sex, but passing up easy opportunities with unreliable women is much better in the long run. Story 42. One thing I see guys get wrong is having no sense of self-respect in relationships. In a normal relationship, your partner respects your needs, your free time, and your friends. It frustrates me how many guys with terrible relationship experiences claim it is normal for your girlfriend or wife not to allow you to hang out with friends, have your own free time, or not be jealous over trivial things. In a relationship, you don't walk on eggshells, and it is not normal to be isolated from everything except your partner. I often hear responses like, "But that's how all women are." That is not true. It is the same as some women who have been in abusive relationships and think that all men are abusive, aggressive, or unfaithful. Having toxic relationships does not mean you understand what a healthy relationship looks like. Your trauma creates unrealistic expectations of love, especially if you grew up in families where parents had toxic relationships. Have self-respect. Set your boundaries and stick to them. If your partner doesn't respect your boundaries, you are in a one-sided relationship, not love. Have self-respect and leave if that is the case. It doesn't matter if you have been single for years. You will live better and be grateful you left, even if you are alone for a while. If you and your partner are not working together for a common, better life, you need to rethink your choices. Additionally, do not try to prove yourself to anyone when looking for a relationship. Maybe you see many of your peers building families and feel like you are falling behind, or you feel desperate to start something with anyone without being selective. Or maybe you engage in competitive comparisons about who has a more attractive partner, rather than focusing on whether you actually like the person you will be spending your free time with. Don't enter relationships or do anything just to prove how great or cool you are. Do what feels right. Validation from others means nothing. Just be a good person, and that will be the best validation. Story 43. I could offer advice about finance, relationships, health, and more, but more importantly in your situation is to move past the baggage of your earlier life, while remembering that therapy is important and focus on trying to be a good man. We inherently know what qualities make a good man. Many people mention my father when describing the kind of father I am to my son. They speak of how good a father he was and assume I take much from that to apply to my child. In truth, I reflect on my father for the things I do not want my son to experience. Role models often disappoint. You may not notice it as it happens, but when toxic behavior emerges in your life and you spend years correcting yourself to become the man you want to be, you realize you could have developed your ideals and worked toward them on your own. Role models and mentors are valuable, but you do not need them to become the person you want to be. My advice is to become the man you want to be. Good qualities are universal. Be a man of your word, and surround yourself with people who lift you up rather than drag you down. Story 44. I adopted some of my teachers, writers, and scientists as my parental figures. The problem is when one of the writers is a rapist scumbag. But you can always love Carl Sagan. Story 45. Just have basic respect and empathy for your fellow human. Do not listen to anybody on what you should think and how you should feel. Do not let anybody control the way you think. Always be understanding and willing to listen without judgment. This all basically boils down to respect for others no matter who they are. Story 46. You probably found one without realizing it. At least that was my experience. I realized when the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air reunion happened that Uncle Phil was my role model growing up. Even though I had a difficult father, I still chose a good role model. Story 47. Regarding the time you spend with a therapist, it may be a good idea to talk about and practice being vulnerable, which is the willingness to ask for help from others and open up about yourself, as well as boundary setting and assertiveness training. These are two essential life skills that are often lacking in men, myself included, who do not have positive masculine, not gender-exclusive role models. Story 48. I have been in a similar position. You do not need a role model because you can be your own. That is how I have dealt with it. Be someone your father could not be to you, someone like your grandfather. Become other people's role model. The more you learn from their mistakes, the more you will realize who you want to be. Ultimately, you just have to be the best version of yourself. That means you have to learn to love yourself and understand that it is okay to make mistakes. We all grow when we learn from what we did wrong. What can you do next? What steps can you take? We can all advise you, but that is something you need to decide for yourself. Good luck, brother. Remember to have conviction in the things you do. Have good morals and do not compromise your beliefs for others. Always stay true to your core. If you still need a role model, look for someone you care about, someone you think is worth looking up to in your real life. A teacher, a friend, or even a stranger. Story 49. I have never had a healthy male role model. You do not need one. You see the unhealthy male role models in your life and ask yourself, is that the life you want to live? Then you make the right decision. Story 50. First of all, I would say do not find someone to look up to. Placing another person on a pedestal is bound to lead to trouble for you. What you want is a mentor. Someone you can learn how to be a man with, receive tough advice from, and who has your best interests at heart. This choice depends on the type of man you see yourself becoming. You have to reconcile your self-perceptions with who you really are as a person and how that may evolve over time through life. The best advice for finding a mentor at your age is to join a social or sporting club that you have a genuine interest in and one that includes older men. Attend regularly, assess who you can and cannot trust, and form friendships with them. Story 51. Read the major works of the Enlightenment and Humanism period of philosophy. Then study a little morality and ethics. Next, build your own code of conduct and include every idea you agree with from those texts. Adhere to your code of conduct 99% of the time. The 1% is there to remind you that you cannot plan for everything life will throw at you. You might make mistakes. In that case, do not abandon everything. Instead, strive to become kinder toward those who are weaker than you. Story 52. Remember that most women do not have a healthy female role model. In fact, most lives ever lived involve making it up as you go along 95% of the time and almost always getting it wrong. Story 53. 1. Learn when the effort is worth it. Never exhaust yourself to achieve something that honestly does not matter. This does not mean you should not do your best. It means if you are causing yourself emotional turmoil over something or someone who does not improve your life, it is probably not worth it. Learn when it is time to leave. You do not want to be the first person to arrive or the last one to leave. You should not overstay your welcome. When the conversation slows down, do not scramble to find a new topic. The same applies to partners and relates to the first rule. When things are no longer what they were, and neither of you is growing together, and you are just roommates who sleep in the same bed, it is time to pack your bags. Story 54. Every person has been making it up as they went along. Follow your intuition and do what you feel is right. Story 55. Consider a few years in the military, specifically the United States Marine Corps. You will learn what you need to live a good life as a man. Story 56. The most important words a man can say are, "I will do better." The most important step you can take is always the next one. Brandon Sanderson. Take this. Also, Mr. Rogers and Carl Sagan have always shown me how to treat people and myself in the life we all share. Story 57. As a child may be born without an arm, so one may be born without kindness or the potential of conscience. A man who loses his arms in an accident has a great struggle to adjust to the loss, but one born without arms suffers only from people who find him strange. Having never had arms, he cannot miss them. Sometimes when we are little, we imagine how it would be to have wings, but there is no reason to suppose it is the same feeling birds have. To a monster, the norm must seem monstrous, since everyone is normal to himself. To the inner monster, it must be even more obscure, since he has no visible thing to compare with others. To a man born without conscience, a soul-stricken man must seem ridiculous. To a criminal, honesty is foolish. You must not forget that a monster is only a variation, and to a monster, the norm is monstrous. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.